Man, playing entertainment on the plane has changed so much. I think the idea of like pretty much having my Nintendo Switch on me sounds amazing. I've flown with it a few times, and being able to play like Zelda on the go is nuts. Like, I remember the first time I went on a plane and I was playing on Randy's like original Game Boy Fat, and like you had to turn the light on. It was really hard to see, and I was playing, what was I playing at the time? We had Tetris. That's the copy of Tetris that I still have on my desk here. And we bought like Street Fighter 2 on the Game Boy in the Philippines, and I played it on the way back. It was awful. It moved so slow at like 3 frames a second, and it's a 6-button game, and it only had 2 buttons on the face. It was basically unplayable. But that's what I put up with at the time, because that's what I had to play on the plane. And now you can like play all these games on your phone. There's all sorts of movies. You can choose your own movie. Back in my day, there was just like the one projector screen on the plane, and everybody had to watch that one movie. And now everyone gets their own screen and can watch or listen to whatever they want. Back in my day. All right, here we go. Prompt. Back in my day. Back in my day, I remember going to daycare, and I was the coolest kid in my daycare because I was the first kid in my daycare to have all 4 Ninja Turtles action figures. Yeah, those, man, the Ninja Turtle toys back in the day, those were great. And oh, attaboy. There we go. Back in my day, what else was happening back in my day? I remember, I'm pretty sure I was old enough to remember when they just introduced Frosties at Wendy's. Back in my day, I remember there's these very iconic McDonald's Happy Meal toys that are Super Mario 3 themed. Like, one of them was Mario, and it had like a suction cup spring thing, and you press it down, and then after a couple of seconds it would like bounce, and he had the raccoon tail. I had that. I remember going to McDonald's and asking for that one specifically and getting it. There was a couple of other ones. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But, that was definitely one of the things. Back in my day, I remember watching my best friend in preschool shove our teacher into a pile of blocks. He was the sweetest kid while growing up. LOL. Here's a back in my day. This one, I don't know if Michelle is going to get mad at me. This is a story they share all the time. Back in her day, she got expelled from kindergarten because I think it was like one of the kids was stealing her lunch, and she asked her older cousin, like, how do I deal with this? And her older cousin said, next time that kid does that, you punch them in the nose. And so the next time the kid did it, bam, punch in the nose. She gets expelled. And that was it. And she's never been in any sort of physical confrontations or anything like that since. And that was just the only time. He didn't like her because her name rhymed with Barney. Good for that kid. She was just defending her property. Yep. Back in my day, I used to watch, oh man, but like this is even before, like I used to watch the Flintstones a lot because it was on reruns on YTV, which is basically the Disney Channel for Canadians. And they showed up, like they're rerunning the Flintstones there. Like, I don't even know, can kids watch the Flintstones now? Do people still play that on TV? I feel like people only know Flintstones as like vitamins now. Also, I adore your Raven doll on Snorlax's head. Raven and Cyborg were my favorite of the Teen Titans. Let me bring them up here. Ugh. Oh no, lost my headphones. I think Flintstones still exists. I don't think, like, I remember watching Flintstones in the 60s cartoon, and I don't know if they made new ones. But yes, I'm a huge fan of Teen Titans Go. I own a couple of seasons on DVD. I know it's meant for kids, but I think it's hilarious. And so, Here's my Raven and my Beast Boy. Raven is my favorite of the bunch. I love her just super deadpan attitude towards everything, except with the equivalent of the My Little Pony characters. I remember original My Little Pony. Forget Friendship is Magic and Bronies. I remember the original My Little Pony. I remember watching Care Bears on TV. I can't remember the names of the Care Bears. I think there's a Lionheart, who's the lion one. I liked... The brown one was my favorite. I don't remember why, but I remember that one. Never got into the My Little Pony scene. Neither did I. I think as a little kid, because just everything was very much, this is boy stuff and this is girl stuff. I didn't really get into it. Steph and I watched a few Friendship is Magic episodes when the whole brony thing became a thing, and we thought it was cool, but I just didn't follow it up. You do realize that we Google, like, all of these references to try and pinpoint your age, right? That's fine. You guys are super close. I remember Teddy Ruxpin being a thing. And so, yeah, Teddy Ruxpin was, like, way before the Furby, but it was, like, this teddy bear that had a cassette deck in its chest, and you would put the cassette in and it would talk to you and stuff, and I think its face moved as well. The original Wendy's Frosty came out in 1969. I definitely did not come out for the... Well, hey, our older sister had that. Oh, awesome! So, yeah, Teddy Ruxpin, very much an 80s thing, I think. I had a Speak and Spell. We had the TMNT movie for that we had the TMNT movie for that TV Teddy. Okay, cool. I am old enough that I saw that Ninja Turtles movie in the theater. It was one of the first movies I saw in the movie theater. Though I think I'd seen... What was the first movie? The first movie I remember seeing in the theater was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I was in daycare at the time. It was a day trip that we went on. We went on the bus, went to the theater, and that was a really fun movie. I think it still holds up today. Shout out to Rick Moranis, who I'm pretty sure is also Canadian. Yeah, that first Ninja Turtles movie was great. The second Ninja Turtles movie was the third one where they do the time traveling, really bad. I have not seen any of the modern Ninja Turtles movies, though. What else do I remember from back in my... I bet you're 32 to 33. We'll never know. We'll never know. I can keep throwing these references out there. I just like ranting about old stuff from back in my day. Oh, here we go. Back in my day, this is kind of a sad story. Those Ninja Turtle toys actually got stolen. We lived in an apartment building. Oh, I don't even think it happened in the apartment. My dad's car got broken into. They smashed the glass and they stole the bag, which had all my toys in it. And so I lost all my Ninja Turtles at that point. That sucked. I didn't understand what was going on. It was just like one day I didn't have Ninja Turtles toys anymore. And that was unfortunate. I remember other things that happened. Dude, WTF. Yeah, I know, they just stole the bag and it had like mostly my kid stuff in it. And so they didn't really get anything of value other than those Ninja Turtle figures. Yeah, what other stuff from that time? Growing up, my dad had a VA... Well, we had a VCR, and one of the things I used to watch on repeat all the time was... My dad made basically like a MTV mixtape with just a bunch of my favorite music videos at the time. And I remember it having the song Sledgehammer, which is a really cool video. Lots of stop motion animation in that one. Still cool to this day. Catchy song too. I think it's Peter Gabriel or one of those two. Phil Collins. It had Michael Jackson's Bad on it. It had... Those are the two big songs I remember, but there was more. There was at least one David Lee Roth song on there. A couple of rock ones. And the other thing I remember watching was this kids show called Kids Incorporated, which had a young Fergie from Black Eyed Peas on there, as she was a kid at the time. I remember of those songs. I know Phil Collins more from Disney's Tarzan soundtrack. Oh man, that's back in your day. I was already like walking with a cane at that point. Jeez, what other stuff do I remember at the time? Before the Ninja Turtles, I was really into the Ghostbusters. The real Well, yeah, so they were known as the real Ghostbusters, which I didn't realize till later that there was actually 2 versions of the Ghostbusters cartoons, because one of them was, it's a whole legal thing, but there's like the fake Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, and then the real Ghostbusters. Everyone knows the real Ghostbusters though. That was my favorite show as a kid. I had the proton pack with the trap, and you'd slide the trap along the floor, and you'd press down on the pedal, and then the thing would open up to trap the ghosts. That was a lot of fun. Here's another random story. Okay, are you guys familiar with the Thigh Master? If you're not, the Thigh Master is this sort of springy device. It's like, it's wedged out like this, and then you press inward with your legs. You put it between your legs, and then you press in with your like thighs to like strengthen your thighs. So it's exercising your legs. The Thigh Master. You can Google this. It was an exercise thing, and like you one of the positions you could go is you lie down on your side, and then you like, oh man, you like press your legs. That's the whole thing. Okay. And so, as a kid, I didn't have one, but my aunt did, and my aunt was babysitting us, and we came up with the brilliant idea of using the Thigh Master as a slingshot for our toys. So we would just like have the Thigh Master on the floor, and we put like a toy, and then we would pull the Thigh Master back and then just fling them. And we thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world at the time. And my aunt like walked in on us as we were doing it, as we were just like giggling our butts off, and she was just like shaking her head at us. Sounds like something I was made to do in gym class in elementary school. Please don't fall off your chair, LOL. I will try not to. I've almost fallen off at least once while streaming. Man. Those were the days. I remember... what other stuff? That sounds awesome. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Back in my day, I remember my cousin... Okay, this is a little older now. This is early mid-90s. My older cousins, one of the cousins that actually introduced me to video games, I think it was a Christmas party, and he was a teenager by this point. And don't try this at home, kids. Do not do this at home. They discovered the thing where if you take like a can of hairspray and you have a lighter, and you set the lighter and then you spray it, it like shoots fire, basically. It turns into fire. Blast. And so they were in their room like with a bunch of their friends using the spray and like basically creating a flamethrower in their bedroom. And one of their friends was like, dude, if you spray the thing, I will brush my hand through the fire. And they're like, what, really? You're gonna do that? And he was like, yes, let me do the thing. So like, all right, fine. And so they queued up, spray the thing. Guy swipes his hand through the fire, and there's just this pause for a split second, and then all of a sudden he's rolling on the ground, writhing in pain, and everyone's laughing at him. I'm like 8 or 9 years old at the time watching this, and I was just like, oh my god, you're an idiot. What are you doing running your hand through fire like that? Our old church choir teacher told us of a toy that her kid used to have, Catapult, where you had little cat figurines and shot them through the air. It was a joke gift to their son since when he was a kid. He thought cats could fly and had to be watching whenever he was near a cat because he'd be like, kitty fly. Oh man, that's not good. Jet, don't play with fire. I hope you learned a lesson. Yes, I did. Don't do that. That was a terrible idea. Later that night, I saw that they had I wonder if they regret this now, because they had the original Star Wars figures from the 70s. They're a little older than me. The 70s and 80s. They had them. And I guess they had grown up and they're like, these are what I need these lame toys for. And I remember looking at their windowsill and they just had the Star Wars toys on fire. They were just melting on the ledge, presumably with the hairspray lighter combo. And some of that stuff was probably worth something. Would be worth something now. And they were just like, heh, LOL. Of course they didn't say LOL back in the day. I also remember from, I think it might have been the same party. Man, this was a really formative party. That's like Sid from Toy Story. Oh, I'm excited for Toy Story 4. Don't set fire to your toys. No, definitely not. I think it was at that same party. It was like even older cousin, her boyfriend at the time. We were playing video games. I think we were playing NBA Live. It was a basketball game, and he demolished me in it. And I remember being almost moved to tears because he was trash talking the hell out of me. And I'm like, again, like 8 to 10 years old, and he's like about to graduate, like maybe in college at that point, and he's just busting my butt in this game and just rubbing it in every chance he gets. And I was so upset. You still have the family-friendly tag on. Yes, I do. Busting my butt. That's as far as it's gonna go. Man, what other stuff? I remember watching Tiny Toon Adventures. Real Kids Don't Eat Broccoli. That's one of my favorite segments from that show. Animaniacs was a lot of fun. I remember the O.J. Simpson case. Oh, geez. Like, thinking back to all the lessons kids would be learning if they were watching this. Yeah, I've seen some stuff as a kid. I vaguely remember Animaniacs. That was a great show. It was really smart for its time. I think it kind of was the precursor for really good shows, the 90s cartoons. And here's a hot take. Here's a hot take that people of my generation, back in my day, aren't going to like. The cartoons of my era in the 80s, they're not very good. They were never very good. I think the cartoons that the kids got in the 90s to now are way better than what I had in the 80s. And I actually did some reading up on it. Like, I think what made me realize this was in the early days of YouTube, I was like, oh yeah, I can watch the Ninja Turtles here. And I loved that show growing up. And we watched the first few episodes. 90s cartoons were great. Agreed. Like Rugrats, and like I didn't watch that many because I was like aging out of them at that point, but like 80s cartoons in particular, we watched the Ninja Turtles and I was like, man, this show really sucks. Like, was it always this bad? And I started reading up on the history of a lot of the shows in the 80s, and part of the boom of cartoons in the 80s was that they were just big commercials for toys. And so they weren't really trying to make actually good shows. They were just trying to show off as many toys as they could. And it shows. Like, a bunch of shows from back in my day were actually made by ad agencies that were specifically designed just to make the toys look cool that they were based on. And that's it. I feel like after that whole era, the cartoons became a lot more creative and were actually trying to entertain and teach kids stuff versus getting kids to buy toys. Like, I watched other shows on that channel rather than that. Tiny Toon Adventures? Tiny Toons was great. I have some DVDs of the 80s TMNT, and they were just so silly. Yes, in hindsight, it was a bad show. As a kid, I thought it was the greatest thing of all time. I remember here. Oh man, back in my day, this is a random thing about in Canada, hockey, biggest sport, but kids aren't really playing hockey in the street anymore. There was one year I was really into hockey, and I played street hockey with my friends, and we were playing hockey. It was my friend Gandhi and his sister. I'm not gonna incriminate her in this one. She got really mad at me for some reason, and she took her hockey stick and she like smoked me over the head with the hockey stick. That was a thing. And there was another time she actually hit her brother in the face with the hockey stick and he chipped his teeth, and he's had to get like those fixed ever since. So yeah, she kind of had a mean streak to her, but she was very nice as a person. That's why I'm not going to name names. But yeah, she got violent sometimes with the stick. Here's another... Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to set the scene here. This is a really embarrassing story. My house used to back onto a park, and it wasn't... We used to play baseball at this park, but it wasn't like a baseball diamond. It was this like rectangle shaped park. It was paved. There was this paved area where we would play, and then there would be like a sandbox behind it, and then there was a pool, and it was fenced off at the back. And so we had bases set up in the paved area, and if you hit it into the pool, it was a home run. Anyway, and then there was fences along the side that like were dividers between the house. It was like chain link fence. And I remember one point someone hit a foul ball, and I went to go get it, and my shorts got caught. Triform Trinity now hosting my stream with one view. Thank you so much, Triform Trinity. Shoutouts to you. Long time no see. My shorts got caught in the chain link fence, and as I got down and I turned, I tried to look back, totally had a hole in my shorts, like exposing the butt. And now here I am, like playing baseball with the kids, and now I've got like a hole in my shorts, and I tried to like shimmy my way sideways back to my house so that no one could see that there was a hole in the back. And I don't think anyone noticed, but now they do. Now you all know. If you remember watching me awkwardly shuffle back to my house, I totally ripped a hole in my shorts trying to get that ball. I hope not, LOL. Oh, dude. Oh, man. Thinking back to those days. So, there was also part of this park. They had these, like, metal springed horsey things. Like, you sit on the horse and then you rock back and forth. And there was this one kid who got Reebok pump shoes. Who had just gotten Reebok pumps. They were in the height of popularity, coolest shoes in the universe. Everyone was like, oh yeah, I'm going to pump my shoes and I'm going to be able to jump higher. And this one kid was showing off saying like, look, I can jump higher. And he decided to try and jump over the horse thing. What ended up happening was he caught his legs on the top of the horse and he went face first into the pavement. And just the sight of him going like splat into the pavement. He was okay at the end, but like just the visual of him going face first into the pavement is just like one of my favorite physical comedy things I've seen. Plus the fact that he totally set himself up by jinxing himself by saying like, oh yeah, I can totally jump higher. Splat. I think I remember those commercials. Yeah, those were so cool at the time. And I hadn't gotten into sneakers by then. I did later on. It was a couple years later where as I got really into basketball. That sounds like a cartoon. Yes, it was like a cartoon. Yeah, later on I would get into sneakers, and I would get like one pair of shoes a year, and like I used to just get like, I don't know. Triform Trinity says all the friends need all the support possible. There was some story, by the way, but unfortunately I have to go. 4 a.m. here, so all have a good evening. Good old commercials of the 90s. Those were the weird times. Yeah. Thank you, Triform, for dropping by. Thank you for hosting. And hope to see you later. Take care. Get some sleep. It's way too late. Yeah, I got really into shoes just because of like how cool they're considered in basketball culture. And I would like before I started buying my own shoes, I would get like one pair of shoes a year. And I remember, speaking of which, we should probably say goodnight soon. Alright, I will say like one more story. It was sneakers, and I remember getting like my first pair of super fancy Nike shoes, and I was so scared to mess them up that I would walk flat-footed. I would not bend my feet because I didn't want to crease the shoes, where normally you would bend your I can't even do the bend with that. But like, I was so paranoid of messing up my shoes. I wanted to keep them looking as fresh as possible that I changed the way I walked for a couple of days to try and keep them clean. And then of course they got messed up and I just wore them normally. But there were some times where for sure I was super paranoid. But once I got a job, and then I started buying shoes like crazy, and that's probably a story for another day.